Welcome to our deep dive into the crucial role of tanks and heavy armor on the battlefield. There are many misconceptions about the effectiveness and necessity of tanks in modern warfare. Some argue that due to the high firepower on the battlefield, mobility alone is more valuable than armor. However, this perspective overlooks the critical mathematics of protection and casualty reduction. First, let's address a common assumption: the idea that because tanks can be destroyed, they are not as valuable. The reality is that it's not about invulnerability, it's about the math behind protection and survivability. Artillery is undoubtedly powerful, especially modern artillery, which can make any target vulnerable. But let's compare the impact on different types of units when 10 artillery shells are fired at them. Consider a scenario where a force of tanks is attacked by 10 artillery shells. If the artillery hits, you might lose one tank and have one casualty, as tanks are designed to protect their crews even if disabled. This shows that tanks significantly reduce human casualties. Now let's change the scenario to a force of armored personnel carriers being attacked by 10 artillery shells. You might lose 2 APCs, resulting in around 10 casualties. The lighter armor of APCs makes them more vulnerable, leading to higher human losses compared to tanks. Finally, let's imagine a force of infantry being attacked by 10 artillery shells. You could lose 50 infantrymen. Infantry lacks the protection of armored vehicles, making them highly susceptible to artillery fire. These comparisons highlight 3 critical functions of tanks. 1. They reduce the chance of being disabled. 2. They minimize crew casualties if disabled. 3. They are more likely to be repairable after the battle. In comparison, a Humvee is much easier to destroy. You might lose the entire squad and the vehicle is likely unrepairable. When spotted and fired upon, tanks take far fewer casualties than any other unit. If you have to choose which units to expose to enemy fire, tanks are the best option because they protect their crews and can be repaired. This principle applies to any attack. For example, during an air attack, a tank is the safest place to be. A bomber that can destroy a tank with an ATGM might kill dozens or hundreds of infantry with airburst bombs. The difference in casualties is stark. Moreover, tanks, trucks, and ammunition are mass-produced on assembly lines, while it takes 18 years to make a soldier. Mechanics are far cheaper than doctors, making tanks a more sustainable option. With these points in mind, let's explore the crucial roles tanks play on the battlefield. Think of tanks as the shields in a video game. Artillery, mortars, and other long-range weapons are the primary damage dealers, inflicting the most damage from a distance. Logistics units and infantry act as healers and support, generally kept away from direct combat due to the lethality of modern firepower. Tanks represent your main source of direct combat power. They have enough firepower to force the enemy to react and take the least casualties when fired upon. Note, they are not invincible, but they take far less casualties than any other unit type. Some might argue for using lightly armored fire support vehicles instead of tanks. However, these units sustain far more casualties than tanks when fired at. While it's ideal to avoid being fired upon altogether, real battlefield scenarios mean your units will be spotted and engaged. Tanks force the enemy to target them, thereby protecting softer units and significantly reducing overall casualties. This is also why tanks do not need infantry support. The calculus of war simply cares about how many casualties you take. Imagine a tank-only force that loses 10 tanks during an operation. Of those 10 tanks, you might have 10 wounded crew members. In a mixed force of tanks and infantry, you might only lose 5 tanks but suffer 50 infantry casualties from mortars and artillery. You end up taking way more casualties by bringing along infantry. It's acceptable to lose tanks in combat as long as you minimize actual human casualties. This does not mean you don't need infantry. Infantry and armored personnel carriers, APCs, are still essential for support roles such as reconnaissance and recovering casualties, but they should be kept out of direct combat. Regarding the firepower of tanks themselves, although potent, they will not inflict as much damage as artillery. The primary role of tank firepower is to force the enemy to react and divert their attention. Tanks are effective at drawing fire, protecting softer units, and reducing overall casualties. Another essential aspect of tanks is that they compel your enemy to carry anti-tank weapons. Every armor-piercing shell or ATGM carried is one fewer high-explosive or airburst munition being carried. This is similar to how historical armor forced enemies to carry maces and warhammers instead of more lethal weapons like swords or spears. Every ATGM carried by an enemy aircraft is one fewer airburst bomb. An ATGM might at best disable one tank, while an airburst bomb can kill dozens of infantry. Anti-tank weapons are fundamentally less efficient and less damaging than high explosives because they overall inflict fewer human casualties, which are the most valuable part of any army. An army without tanks would mean the enemy does not need to carry any anti-tank ordnance, allowing them to focus entirely on high explosives, mortars, and autocannons. This simplification of their logistics chain and ammunition carried makes each of their units much more lethal. Tanks, by forcing the enemy to carry specialized, less efficient anti-tank ordnance, play a crucial role in reducing the overall lethality of enemy forces. Special note, if the enemy opts not to carry anti-tank ordnance, then your tanks have free rein to do whatever they want, being able to inflict overwhelming damage without the threat of being neutralized. This scenario highlights the strategic advantage of maintaining a well-armored force. Without anti-tank weapons, enemy forces cannot effectively stop or neutralize your tanks, allowing your armored units to dominate the battlefield and impose significant damage with impunity. This creates a kind of zugzwang situation, where the enemy is forced to carry less efficient anti-tank weapons, even though high explosives would be more effective in inflicting damage. The necessity of carrying anti-tank ordnance fundamentally reduces their overall combat effectiveness. In conclusion, the evolution of modern warfare suggests that tanks can, in many scenarios, operate effectively without direct infantry support. The mathematics of battlefield casualties highlight the benefits of minimizing human losses by relying more on armored units and heavy weapons. While infantry still play crucial roles in reconnaissance, casualty recovery, and logistics, their involvement in direct combat should be minimized to reduce unnecessary casualties. By leveraging the strengths of tanks, artillery, and air support, military forces can achieve their objectives more efficiently and with fewer human costs. If you found this analysis intriguing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more insights into modern military strategy. Share your thoughts in the comments below about the evolving role of tanks and infantry in contemporary conflicts. Stay tuned for more episodes of Strategic Warfare, where we explore the intricate dynamics of 21st century combat. Thanks for watching.